Well, let's take a quick look at what's grabbing the headlines today in the French press. And it's all about FIFA blasted by those corruption charges. Tell us more, Florence.
Absolutely. Now, of course, that story came out yesterday. Those two separate probes, one from the U.S., one from Swiss authorities into these allegations of corruption. It's a huge story here in France. It's the big story, really. Let's take a look, first of all, at the front page of Aujourd'hui en France. It talks about Operation Hands Clean, and you can see the man of the moment, really, Sepp Blatter there with his head in his hands. Now, this is not really a complete shocker, according to Aujourd'hui en France. The organization FIFA has already been plagued with these allegations of corruption. So this is rather a logical step in what Le Parisien Aujourd'hui en France calls a downward spiral that FIFA has experienced over the past 20 years, a confirmation, really, of this endemic corruption that has really been like gangrene for FIFA, according to Le Parisien.
Well, lots of papers going so far to compare FIFA to the mafia.
Absolutely. If we take a closer look at the front page of Libération today, they're definitely channeling some mafia vibes. You can see here they're talking about FIFA Nostra, so not Cosa Nostra, the very famous Sicilian mafia, but FIFA Nostra. And this might look very familiar. This is a play on the very famous Godfather movie poster, the Godfather, very famous movie about the mafia by Francis Ford Coppola. Now, you might be wondering, who's pulling the strings behind this mafia? Well, a lot of the focus is on Sepp Blatter. Now, he hasn't personally been charged, of course, in these corruption probes, but he's definitely in the spotlight today. Le Monde interviews a former top FIFA official named Guido Tognoni, and he's very critical of this system, as he calls it, that's been put in place by Sepp Blatter over his 17 years as president of FIFA, and especially his predecessor, though, the Brazilian João Havelange. He really initiated the system, according to this top FIFA official. And you can see this is a quote from his interview. He says, FIFA is like a mafia. He says that Sepp Blatter is obsessed with power. It's his passion. He manipulates everyone with one goal, to stay in power, and that's why he tolerates this culture of corruption that was actually really put in place by his predecessor, Havelange. He really tolerates this corruption to basically stay in power.
Well, of course, we have those elections tomorrow. It seemed almost like a coronation that we were coming to on Friday, but that could be in jeopardy.
That's right. It could or it couldn't. That's kind of the debate today. If we take a look at an article in Le Figaro today, they say that Sepp Blatter is really an expert at dribbling and trick shots. They also talk about the Sepp Blatter system that he's put in place since he's been president, so since 1998. It's quite a long time. And over the past 17 years, Sepp Blatter has really promoted a culture of corruption and impunity. So once again, the same theme that's coming up in Le Figaro. He's managed to transform himself into a godly figure at the head of FIFA with formidable power and especially an army of very loyal acolytes who will take a fall for him. Now, what's interesting, though, is that FIFA is really in upheaval right now, but Sepp Blatter might really emerge unscathed. That's what a lot of papers are saying. If we take a look at L'Obs, they say that he's going to emerge from all this without a scratch, really. Now, the EUFA, the European governing body of football here in Europe, has actually called for the vote on Friday, the presidential vote, to be postponed, but L'Obs says this is not going to happen. The vote will go on, and it's quite likely that he'll be re-elected.
So is anything going to actually change, Flo?
Well, that's what a lot of papers are wondering today. La Croix, the Christian paper, wonders in its editorial, will this be the end of an era? Well, La Croix is hopeful, but it's maybe wishful thinking that this could be the end of an era where billions of dollars are laundered through not only FIFA, but other sporting associations that have residency in Switzerland. That being said, though, according to La Croix, such widespread corruption has managed to exist for so long in many of these sporting associations because there's a certain, complacency, or rather complacency from the general public, especially fans of sports, fans of football. There's no secret that there have been all sorts of questionable practices at FIFA, but so far, way too many football fans would rather just close their eyes and focus on the game.
Well, corruption isn't the only problem in FIFA, according to Libération.
That's right. Now, in their editorial, Libération really lashes out against FIFA, says that on top of the widespread corruption, the governing body of the world's favorite sport is sexist, homophobic. It closes its eyes on blatant racism in the sporting world. It also clearly closes its eyes on a very clear case of slavery in the World Cup construction sites in Qatar. Libération really calls on national governments to also put the pressure on FIFA. National governments and sponsors, according to Libération in their editorial, there's a certain hypocrisy here, because on the one hand, governments talk about ethics, etc., but they won't really lash out against sporting organizations because they want to host sporting games. Unless we take the path of transparency and ethics, we are clearly an accomplice, according to Libération.